Good morning. Welcome to our webinar on automating hybrid mobile apps, test automation best practices for hybrid apps. My name is Hanisha and I will be your host today. Today's presenter is Mehul Kagathara. Mehul is a Senior Practice Manager in Digital Assurance at Infostretch. He's an experienced leader in QE strategic, digital transformation, and automation. With his guidance and expertise, he has helped companies expand their digital initiatives to groundbreaking levels. He has over 15 years of experience in working with a wide range of companies in the finance and healthcare industries. Additionally, he has directed the development of QE initiatives, accelerators, and next-generation AI-based automation tools. And before we begin, let me review some housekeeping items. First, this webcast is being recorded and will be distributed via email to you, allowing you to share it with your internal teams or watch it again later. Second, your line is currently muted. Third, please feel free to submit any questions during the call by utilizing the chat function on the bottom of your screen. We will answer all questions towards the end of the presentation. We will do our best to keep this webinar to the 45-minute time allotment. At this time, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mehul.
Welcome to this webinar. So in today's webinar, we will go over with the testing approaches and also see some of the best practices to deal with hybrid mobile app in automation. So scope of this webinar is very focused on testing hybrid app and not how to construct or develop the hybrid app. I am sure like we all are aware about hybrid mobile apps, right? And I don't need to go over in details, but to set the context of this webinar, so I will take 2 minutes to cover the different types of apps on mobile platform. So the overall like a takeaway from this webinar would be to get familiar with the various frameworks and tools which support hybrid app automation and some of the best practices we should consider while designing our testing approach for hybrid app. We will also see a live demonstration at the end of this presentation. So let's start and feel free to write your question in question and answer section. I will try my best to answer your question at the end of this the presentation. So as we all know, right, so there are mainly 3 different types of application generally we have seen on mobile platform: native, web, and hybrid application. So native application which is built using a native SDK of the mobile platform like Android and iOS. Since it is leveraging a native SDK, app performance is faster compared to any other types like web and hybrid, and it must be written for each platform. So both this platform, Android and iOS, provide their native SDK. We need to write our application code for each platform. However, like a mobile web app, it's nothing but it's simply a web application, but designed considering mobile platform as well. So we generally call it like a responsive web app. It will work inside a mobile browser like a Chrome or Safari, as simple as any other desktop browser. But UI UX part will be responsive based on the screen resolution. It will run on the server, and performance it's a little bit slower compared to native app, since it is using like resources from the server in order to render UI and UX. The last one, like a hybrid app, it's like a mixture of native and web components. App will run locally on the device and also support offline mode. So when I say offline mode, that means like app resources we can store in local storage on device instead of like storing on server. So your performance will be better compared to the web based application. Hybrid app can also access the native APIs of the platform like keyboard, touch ID, or media, etc. So via hybrid app we can construct or develop like a cross-platform application. Performance is like the same as native app, but if there are application with like a 3D or HD games, right? So and or high graphics oriented apps. It's at that time like the performance will be a little bit slow compared to native app. Hybrid app is also having like a dependency on the different libraries and frameworks like Cordova or Ionic, which have to be like in sync with the latest platform version changes and releases as well. So let me not go into the details like comparing between types of application and which type of application is better than other, and vice versa. So objective of this webinar is limited to automate like a mobile hybrid app. So now we will we all got the basic idea, right? So hybrid app is like a containing both the components, like a native as well as the web component in a single application. So so very first question now is like how to deal with this kind of application, like using automation tools. So most commonly we use like a APM as a automation tool to automate the mobile apps, right? So that we will see in this today's presentation. So let me move into the, okay. So before we jump into the automation strategy, right, for the mobile hybrid app, so there are like some key benefit that hybrid app can bring to the table. And our automation solution should be designed considering portability and scalability of the platform. We will see automation approaches during the live demonstration. Since we don't need to write like a platform specific code in a hybrid app, right? So company can release the app faster compared to the market, compared to native one. It will also reduce the overall development and maintenance cost as well. Also, as I said in previous slide, right, we can access the native features like a camera, GPS, media, etc. User can also create a UI UX using like a modern JavaScript based toolkits and all. Okay. So so now the first question is like, what should we test while testing a mobile native or hybrid app? So definitely two aspects we should touch upon while designing our automation strategy for a mobile app, functional and non-functional. But however, like so when we talk about a mobile platform, so it is more than just a functional or non-functional testing, right? So testing coverage on mobile platform is huge. So there are wide variety of platform devices, versions, manufacturers available in industry. So we should keep that in mind also while designing our automation strategy. So some scenario may involving mobile hardware sensor is also complex and time consuming. Also like simulating some real world condition to uncover most of the critical defects of the mobile app. So like for example, application behavior, we want to check the application behavior at the specific location or route, simulating the camera functionality, simulating the fingerprints, also like monitoring the the back calls when location is constantly changing, impact on the battery consumptions. So there are many more such real world use cases associated with the mobile platform, but we will not go over with the types of testing or some the non-functional real world use cases in this webinar. So this webinar is more centric to the functional app testing only, like how to do the functional automation of a hybrid app. Okay. So there are like a variety of testing tools available in industry to deal with the native as well as the hybrid app testing. APM is one of the most powerful and largely adopted tool by industry. It does support most of the languages like Java, C Sharp, Python, etc., like PHP. So there are some other platform specific frameworks are also available. For example, Expresso and XUI test. So both like Android and iOS provide their own native UI frameworks. These framework are more powerful and fast compared to APM, but you must need to write automation code alongside of application code. Infostretch has also developed open source automation framework. It's called Qmetry. It has also support. So it's developed on top of like APM and Selenium to automate web, mobile, and API. So we will see the demo using QA framework at the end of this presentation. There are some like cloud-based solutions also available to automate mobile application, or like a Perfecto. It is a cloud automation solution and does support variety of frameworks, like it has inbuilt support for APM native frameworks like XUI and Expresso, and also provide like wide range of devices, versions, and platform to test your application on different combination of manufacturer and different versions and operating system. Okay, so we will see like how to handle web view in mobile app using both native as well as the APM framework. So nowadays these two approaches are most commonly used in industry, like native as well as the APM. So with native frameworks such as like XUI test or Expresso, the test code will be developed alongside your application project source code. This means you will need access to the source code to develop your test code. Engineers who develop test code must be familiar with the languages in which source code is developed. For example, for iOS, like the engineers must have familiar with the Objective-C or Swift for iOS, and Java for Android. With native framework, you need to develop and maintain tests separately for each platform you support. There are test recorder available to simplify your testing authoring on both the native framework. However, like you will soon hit the limitation as you attempt to scale and maintain your test or automation, and eventually end up with like a tweaking and writing new test and test code. However, like in other side APM, you do not need to access to the application source code to develop test code. APM can only access the application UI, just like like any end user perform any operation. Test test developed are like all are like external to the application under test code. APM support multiple languages like Ruby, Selenium, Python, Java, JavaScript. It's also enable you to write test against multiple platforms such as iOS, Android, and using the same API. This enables code reuse between your different platform, like Android or the iOS platform. So you also like using an open source framework, like as I mentioned, right, the Qmetry one that Infostretch has created, which is again like built on top of this APM and Selenium. So you will get like a maximum reusability out of it, like using the APM based approach, because you don't need to write a separate test code for your each platform that you support. One of the APM philosophy is like you shouldn't have to recompile your app or modify it anyway in order to automate it. To automate with APM, you only need to build the AUT, like a binaries file, either APK or IPA. So there is no need to compile with any APM specific or any third party framework to generate a testing build. So, and with native framework, so you basically you need two binaries, like one for actual application, and you also need another binaries for your testing application. So let's say if I give you an example, in case of iOS, you need a test runner runner application as well as your actual application IPA as well. So so basically the conclusion here is like so there is no one side fits all solution while selecting a framework. So leveraging native frameworks for unit and UI test with some mock data, and APM can be you the better option for end-to-end testing and mimic the end user behavior in ideal combination. So but however, like still, so there are like the benefit of native frameworks also. So let's say if you only support like only one platform, then a native framework would be the better option. As I said, like the performance of execution performance of native framework is better than APM. But other side, like there are some drawback also, like you need to maintain your two different test code while supporting like both this platform, like Android and iOS. Okay, so now like so there are so while designing automation strategy for hybrid app, like there are three key things could be challenging while working on hybrid app automation, like a context selector and touch action. So in hybrid app, web components are run completely inside a web view control of the application. So therefore, we need to switch the context between native to web view in order to access the elements inside the web view. So once you launch your application, and if there are some there is a like a web view control in your application, and you want to perform some actions against the your web view element, right? So basically there is a concept called context. So using that context, you need to switch from native to web view. So once you like switch to your web control or a web view element, the elements are essentially like so all other elements are essentially are the same as the web browser, right? So it's easy to inspect by using if you are targeting Android platform, you can use Chrome, or for iOS Safari to inspect all your the web view elements. Simulating touch actions in hybrid app is a little bit tricky, since like touch actions in WebView are not fully supported. So in next slide, we will see like how to handle web elements inside a WebView. Okay, so so as I mentioned earlier, right? So basically, Espresso is the Android framework for UI automation. And so here in screen you can see like some samples snippet to demonstrate like how to handle native and web elements in Android app. So in Espresso there is a so no separate code we need to write for switching context from native to web view. Just need to implement like on web view method. So in right hand side you can see on my screen method and perform whatever actions or verification you want to do. It offers a powerful and fast way to interact with element, since Espresso they need to write inside your application code base, so user can get all the access of for most of the elements, including custom controls if any in your application as well. So basically in mostly in APM we see, right? So we need to switch between native to web view, and again, like if I want to perform a native action on my native element, right? So again I need to switch back to web view to native context. And also in case of Espresso, we just need to implement this on web view method in order to deal with the hybrid application. Uh, so now let me show you like same for iOS. So handling WebView in XUI test framework is very tricky, and it does not support like direct way to locate the element using like a CSS or XPath based strategy that we generally use in our web automation. In iOS, WebView will open in Safari only, so you need an instance of Safari in order in your test on or to work with the web element. We cannot use XPath and need to handle all the elements using their class type like button, label, and text. So in my screen you can see that. So for example, if I want to click on that URL or something, right? So XUI framework does not support CSS or XPath like like APM or Expresso does support, right? So in order to like perform any action on web view elements, we need to rely on the class type. However, like if you are using native framework like either Expresso or XUI to automate hybrid app, then you need to implement entire solution for each platform. And also, like we cannot reuse the locators, right? So locator strategy or locators are also we need to maintain separately in both this case, like Expresso and XUI test. So using APM, we can build this single robust solution to deal with cross-platform testing, where we can also reuse the locators for web view across the platform and get the maximum reusability out of it. So let me show you how to handle. Okay, so APM could be the better option compared to native framework if you want to get the maximum reusability from your one code base to automate for various platforms like Android or iOS, irrespective of whether we are targeting like a native or hybrid app. So we will get like a better reusability with the APM kind of approach. API does support like a context switch between native to web and web to native. For example, in my screen you can see, right? So I have written some snippet code in Java to switch. Let's say if I want to perform some action on my web view element, right? So the syntax would be like a driver.context web view. So whatever web view number like 1, 2, or 3, so that we can get through the get context handlers. However, like there are some prerequisites in order to use APM for hybrid app. For Android, like it is necessary to set web contents debugging enable property true on the your web view control or element in your application code. If this property is false, then you cannot like debug a web view element in APM. So it is mandatory to set this property to true in order to work with APM. So it is only mandatory for Android platform. For iOS, like so executing like against like iOS real device, APM is unable to access the web view directly. Therefore, the the connection has to be established through USB cable. To establish this connection, we can use the iOS WebKit debugger proxy. For simulator, let's say if I am running my test on simulator, we don't need to start this proxy. It is only mandatory for real device. So if I am testing or running my test on real device, we just need to make sure like that proxy server is running in order to establish the connection between my web view and my USB. There are like a lots of other useful desired capabilities in APM. Most common one are like the auto web view, ignore unimportant views, and WebKit debug proxy port. If you want to switch to web view context directly when APM launches the application, set this property or like auto web view property to true. In this case, you don't need to write any code to switch between native to web view context. So when we launch the application through APM driver, it will automatically switch to the web view. This is very useful property when entire application is developed with the web control and embed inside the native containers. So that means like my entire application is like a hybrid application. So all action I need to perform against the web elements only. So when there are like some control are like developed using native application operating inside WebView control, ignore unimportant view capability will be useful. If I give you an example, so let's say you want to perform some action with native element, and then your application screen contains WebView as well in the same screen. APM will take time to fetch the DOM source and finding the locators, because basically it will find the all the it takes the DOM source for all this, like web element as well as the native. But however, like my intention is to perform some operation on native control, right? So by using this property, I can ignore my WebView elements in my DOM. So my finding locators will be faster than in normal case, right? So in order to like improve the performance of finding locators, this property will be useful. And to start your iOS proxy, as I said, right, so for real device testing for hybrid app, you need to start this proxy, right? So this property, WebKit debug proxy pod property will be useful. If you set it to true, then you don't need to start that proxy server manually. It will automatically start the server, and then you can perform the action. And now let me go into how we can like inspect the web element. So we will see during the live demonstration like how to locate the web view and inspect the element inside the web view. But as I said, right, so Chrome browser we can use to use for Android app, and Safari Safari we can use for iOS to inspect the web view elements. So we will see during the demo how it works. So, so regarding transaction on hybrid app, so the resolution of your application and WebView will be different, right? So, and hence the performing touch action on WebView will not work properly. To overcome to this issue, best practice is to like handle it by using JavaScript injection. An alternate option could be to handle it by element coordinates. In my screen you can see, right, after switching to web view, right, to get the web view width and height, right, so JavaScript can be used. So in my screen you can see by using the JavaScript I'm getting the width and height of my web view now, because my application width and height and web view width and height would be different. So in order to perform any touch action on my web element inside the web view, so I need a width and height of my the web view control. So using code, you will get the width and height of your web view, and then you can calculate the x and y for your expected element, and you can do your desired action. So whatever action you would like to perform on the web view element. So at Infostretch, so this is the overall strategy we generally follow with various our customer. So as I said, right, so we have built like a open source framework called QF, Qmetry Automation Framework, and it does support like web, mobile, and API automation testing. It has like a many inbuilt good features to handle mobile, native, and hybrid app. So I will not cover like detailed features like about this framework in in this webinar, but at high level, like it does support like variety of authoring mechanism. Like I can write my test in BDD or keyword driven or code driven approach. It also has like a inbuilt capabilities for integrations with any test management tool like ALM, Qtest, or QTM for Jira. Also, we can so when we talk about hybrid app, right? So since, as I said, so using the APM as a framework, right? So we can reuse the locators across the platform, right? So my test should also be agnostic, right? Like a platform agnostic, right? So with the help of this kind of like strategy, we can write a single test, like a platform agnostic test, and it should work for the both the platforms, like Android or iOS. So we will see in the demo part. So now let me quickly jump into the demo part. So basically, in my screen you can see, right? So I have this demo application built for iOS. So it contains both like a native as well as the there is one control for the web view also. So here in this screen you can see, right? So inside my native container, there is one the web view, right? So basically it launches the GitHub URL. So all these elements are a web element, and rest of this tab, like here you can see, right? So all these elements are the native elements, right? So now so in order to automate these applications, I have created one small demo. So let me show you. So this demo is basically written using QF framework. So as I said, right, so it's written on top of Selenium and APM, right? So it's leveraging the same APM capability in order to work with mobile applications. But the good feature here is like I can describe my test case in either in this gherkin format, like given, when, then, or I can also write the keyword driven test, as well as I can directly write my code in Java language itself, right? So just demonstration purpose, I have written this the BDD approach here. So in my screen you can see, right? So basically it will first it will open the application and then navigate to the web view, and then perform login on both like a native as well as web view, right? So in this application you can see, right? So there is a login functionality inside web view, as well as there is one separate tab for so this login screen is developed using the native controls, right? So uh, so you can see. So now so in order to find the element of this web element, right, inside my native container, as I said, right, so I can simply open Chrome, and here you can see, right? So currently I have running application on simulator. So here you can see, so if I open, so using this web inspector of Safari, I can inspect the elements and find the locators. So these finding locators all are like it's the standard web strategy, right? Either I can write the locator in CSS, or if there is a ID, I can directly use the ID, or I can also write the XPath and all. So it's very much similar to web application only, right? But to find the locator or inspect the locators, I can use Safari for the web view control of my hybrid application. The same with Android, I can use Chrome browser for Android application. So overall structure wise, you can see, right? So this is a simple the Maven base project I have created, and added as a dependency like QF dependency in my pom.xml. So here you can see yeah. So this framework dependency I have added in my pom.xml. The structure wise, like so this in this framework you can separate out all your execution configuration, all your test data, locators and other resources in the under this resources folder. Okay, and test cases will reside under the scenarios folder. So you can create your own folder and you can write the test cases either D or driven, so whatever your preferred choice, you can write. So there are some this configuration, right? So you can also provide the global configuration, like what all platform you want to run your test. So currently the demonstration purpose, I will run this test case on iOS platform, but you can change it to Android or whatever, right? And resources are also dynamically loaded, right? So if I run the same this BDD scenario, right, on two different platform, I can override these properties, and at runtime it will fetch the resources data. So basically resources, it could be like your test data or your locators. So in this case, like so most of my locators, so let me show you the locators file also. All right, so it's a key and value I can specify, right? So for example, username, I have defined one key, right? So rather than like hard coding my XPath at implementation level, right? So this approach will be very useful, right? So just create a properties file, define your key and value, and refer this key in your actual implementation, right? So let's say tomorrow if there is any application change happens, right? So you don't need to uh, do any maintenance at implementation level, right? So you can directly do your required maintenance at the this property file level. So right, and so again, like so I can also specify uh, the platform specific configuration also. So in order to work with Android application, right, so there are different desired capability, and for iOS, like there are different capabilities I need to set, right? So for platform specific capability, you can also set as a key and value under this platform folder under resources. So now let me execute this test case. So it's a Maven project I can run using the Maven test. So I have already APM server is running on my machine. So now you can see, right, it opens the application and navigate to web view, and then enter the value of my web element inside the my web view control. Okay, and at the end of the execution, it will generate this kind of report. Okay. But the idea here is like, so with this approach, right, so I can run the same scenario or same test case across the platform, right? So rather than like writing a test case for platform specific test case, right? So this kind of the automation strategy or approach will more helpful, right? So it will basically help you to reduce your overall testing cost and maintenance cost as well.
Thank you so much, Mehul.
Yeah, over to you, Anisha.
Yes. At this time, we would like to get your questions answered. So as a reminder, you can at any time ask a question utilizing the chat feature at the bottom of your screen. So I see I see some influx of questions. Okay, so let's go over to our first question. So Mehul, as you said, we must need to set web contents debugging enabled property as true in order to automate the hybrid app. But what if this property is set as false? And while working with different customers, sometimes due to security reasons, customers won't allow to set this property as true. So is there any other way we can handle such a situation?
Okay, yeah, I guess, yeah, this is good question, I guess. So without setting this property to true, as I said in my presentation as well, right? So we cannot like debug the web view. It means like we cannot inspect the element same as a web element. However, like APM does generate native accessibility of DOM structure, and we can access the element by writing native XPath. The method we generally use for native web, the same method we generally use for native web, right? So but only drawback in this case like is we need to write the XPath of element for each platform, right? So as I also mentioned in my strategy, right, automation strategy, like since it is a hybrid application, I should reuse my locators across the platform, right? It's very much very much web application only, right? So rather than writing separate locator for same element for Android and iOS, right? So it would be the best approach if I can use the same locator for the platform, right? So hence, like, this is strongly recommended for Android to set this property to true, right? So maybe you can ask your customer to generate a QA build or something in order to test the hybrid application. But yes, there is an alternate way. So if even you don't, your customer is not allowed you to set this property to true due to some security reason or something, right? So with the help of APM, you can still perform your action or perform your verification on WebView. I hope I answered this question.
That was great, Mehul. Thank you so much. Our participants have generated a couple more questions for you to answer, so let's look at the next one. What about Protractor for web testing? Can we use it to automate mobile, native, and hybrid apps?
Okay. So I'm just guessing the question is can we use Protractor for hybrid app? Yeah, so basically, answer to this question is Protractor is also leveraging Selenium APIs internally and specifically designed for Angular web application. However, it it will doesn't stop you to use for mobile application as well. So answer to you this question is yes, we can use the Protractor for mobile app testing. There are some desired capability we may need to disable before initializing the driver in order to launch the application, because Protractor is mainly designed for Angular based application, and so when I launch my application using Protractor, so it may wait for ng load or ng wait kind of methods. So but there are some properties available by setting that properties, we can use Protractor for the mobile application as well.
Okay, that is great. Thank you so much, Mehul, again. And let's do one last question. So, okay, can we use Qmetry automation framework to scale execution over cloud like Perfecto or Sauce Labs for mobile testing? And does it support parallel execution?
Yes, so it has inbuilt integration with Perfecto Sauce Lab and allow users to run tests parallelly as well. As I mentioned, right, so it is leveraging or it is built on top of TestNG. So underlying Qmetry framework is also using TestNG, and TestNG does support parallel execution also. On top of that, we are also supporting in this framework, Qmetry framework, I can run my scenario or BDD scenarios parallelly as well. Not only like a TestNG test, but I can also run the BDD scenarios parallelly as well on any cloud, like either it could be Perfecto or Source Lab.
Okay. That is great. Thank you so much, Mehul. And I believe that's all the questions we were able to answer at this time. Also, be sure to check out and subscribe to DTV, an Infostretch YouTube channel that allows us to talk to top industry thought leaders about digital transformation. Many thanks to our speaker, Mehul, and thank you everyone for joining us today. You will receive an email in the next 24 hours with this live presentation and link to the webcast replay. If you have any questions, please contact us at info@infostretch or call 1-408-727-1100 to speak with a representative. Thank you all.